Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Yoruus speaking and welcome to summary video for multiplayer game number 122. So this game was played on Twitch on 7 May on Saturday in the early morning. I've got in this game Mr. QBS playing as Mongolia, Deja V playing as Morocco, Cyclone Noob playing as Austria, and now either Resevier, either Bergir playing as Assyria and Greece. I don't remember exactly right now, but that will be known later on in this video. Now, spoiler alert, as usual, if you do not want to know how the game went, stop watching right now and go to the first position of the playlist. The link should be somewhere around in here. But if you do want to know how the game went, so you can decide if you want to watch the game or not, or you just want to hear me Torycraft after you have watched the game, then I invite you to watch this summary video. So, you have been warned. This game is played with Fruitstrike mod version 5.0 without the map script made by Hellbrazer. The links to the mod and the map script are in the description, left hand, in the description below, somewhere, somewhere in the description below. Now, let's just take a quick moment to talk about the mod and the map pack. So the mod changes a lot of social policies. The most recent changes are to, well, the first changes was to liberty, honor, and piety. And with this particular version 5, well, and rationals, and with particular version 5, there's a huge change to patronage and commerce. Now, the general idea behind the mod is to go away from only tradition being the only viable social policy choice for basically the whole game. As we all know, liberty was always good early game, mid game, but later on you fall behind quite a bit, and there was little circumstances that actually allowed liberty to be viable for the late game. So mostly you're kind of forced into tradition rationalists. Now, the huge boost in tech and rationalists is put much further into the tree, deeper in the tree, and actually tradition, honor, and piety got huge boosts, especially liberty and honor. There's a lot of good stuff in there. I definitely encourage you, if you haven't heard about the mod, check out those links, read about that, check out the Reddit. This is work in progress. This is version 5. This mod needs a huge balance still, but it is an attempt to make the game more interesting. The only downside for me that it is right now, at this stage of the development of the mod, it's mostly focused on war. And the problem is right now that science got kicked into oblivion. Actually, tradition is much more slower than it is, and science victory and tourism victory are, I haven't seen those yet in modded games. There's also quite a lot of changes with the units. Especially the huge change is talking about this particular game. Well, actually there's not going to be any tanks, well, land ships in this game, but there's a huge problem for me right now with the mod, and that is land ships. Now, land ships has 100 boost to combat strength against land units, so they come much faster than anti-tank units. They come at the time, well, a little bit earlier than planes, for example. But the problem is, if you don't have planes, bombers, who needs to be theoretically hard counter to tanks, or your land army becomes obsolete. Land ships, in most cases, one-shot things like Gatling guns, artillery, cavalry. So if you, and the problem is you can actually upgrade to land ships from cavalry. So if you're facing off a player that has a huge amount of cavalry, a huge amount of gold, and is ahead of you in tech, at least by 2 techs, for example, if you want to go to planes, and for example you need to hard build those planes, then you're in very big trouble. But land ships is not in this particular game. Probably I will show off later on a game with tanks, well, land ships being a problem with version 5 before the next version probably. As I said, this is a work in progress. In this particular game, I was opting to test changes in commerce tree and this is what I was trying to test out. There's also one thing though that happened in this game, though this is a summary video, so I can talk whatever I want about patronage Greece in this particular instance, but this we will gonna talk about it later on when I'm actually gonna show you how this game went through. Okay, so let's start off. Now, this is my starting location, and yeah, this is my starting location. I was like, what the fuck, right? So the problem is with this starting location is, okay, this is Portuguese, this is desert, but there's like four tiles of the river for fresh water, right? This is actually plains. This is plains wheat. This is not desert. But the problem is, okay, I'm on the coast, but there's no fish, and I hate those starts when you start up on the coast and you don't have any fish whatsoever, any sea resources, zero. I hate that because when you look at this city might be like, it would be cool, but if you think, well, it's mediocre in the early game, depending on where the horse is at, right? But for the late game, you kind of want to have the option to work 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 tiles. Basically, when you have ocean start, coastal start, and you don't have fish or any other sea resources, it's like 2 food. It's as good as desert, basically, right? Maybe a little bit easily accessible because of the lighthouse where you get 2 food, but this is just a basic 2 food tile that in most of the cases you don't want to work in the late game, right? So I don't like those starts, but anyways, this is what I was rolled in, and this is Portuguese. So you can see a monument in here, and yes, monument means that I'm going to Liberty. As I said, I was always a huge fan of Liberty, or tradition Liberty mix and original Civ. The reason for that is I feel much more comfortable with Liberty, but I was kind of forced. Like, straight Liberty games didn't really work out that well. I tested several times, and you know that I experimented a lot. Liberty very rarely works. There needs to be huge circumstances like strong religion or piety or Jesuit education or stuff like that to make Liberty White Empires viable for the late game. But because of the mod, there's huge boost to Liberty, and I definitely wanted to go Liberty. As I said, I'm most comfortable, and actually tradition, in my personal feeling, needs a boost now because tradition is so slow compared to other trees right now, especially Liberty and Honor, that tradition needs a little bit of a boost because it's very vulnerable in the mid game, basically early mid game. So I wanted to go Liberty, and yeah, let's continue what we have around. Okay, I think this is a pretty good screenshot to show off what's going on. So as it turned out, actually Rizever is playing Assyria and BNW is playing Greece. Now, I'm not too fond of what I see. Let's be totally honest with each other, right? But there was a couple of circumstances that did happen in this particular game that I sort of liked. Now, what did happen? I did get an upgrade to a Spearman from a ruin. This allowed me to get a little bit of tributes. As you can see, I'm rocking on 265G. And there is Assyria very close. Now, when you look at this land feels very horrible, right? There is a marble luxury in here, but it's just like the land around there is bloody awful. There is Grand Mesa in here as a natural wonder, but you can see there's Mongolia, and settling in front of Mongolia so far away when you have another player so close to each other, it's probably a bad idea, so I didn't want to do that. So what was the plan? As you can see, my Spearman is here. I went Liberty. Soon I'm gonna get a free settler, and I'm going right for this spot, and my first intention is to use up this gold, build up a lot of archers, upgrade them to composite, and take away Assyria threat first. As you can see, I did steal a worker, I did build one worker, I asked a little bit of tributes, so I have a pretty decent start. My capital is population 4, I'll probably grow to population 5, crank out a settler, and do a little bit of stuff. Now, as you can see, the capital is the capital, one fish. It turned out I've got one fish in my capital. There's theoretically a spot for another city south, but I don't think that I'm ever going to plant that city. So my initial intent is 3 cities and kill Assyria and then see what we're gonna do. Why do I want to kill Assyria? Well, first of all, he's so close and I don't have too much spots to expand, right? And I already invested into being Liberty, so playing 3 cities Liberty feels like a waste of the 3 overall. Anyways, right? So I felt I need to clear out Assyria. I didn't want to deal with siege towers or maybe he had like huge amounts of land later on to deal him with in the later game. So I wanted to use my gold advantage and actually snipe him off as soon as possible. Plan worked very, very well. I was able to fulfill my plan. Now, I gotta admit, it worked much slower than my initial intent. I was really hoping that I can just ruffle stomp Assyria, but he did put up a fight. But eventually, I was successful to take off his capital. So this part of the plan worked very, very well. And now, while I was, as you can see, I have no vision of this side of the map. Absolutely no vision of this side of the map. So I was like, I didn't know what's cooking there. But after I took Assyria, and I'm gonna skip right now to the next part of this, and I actually shoot in perfectly. So as it turned out, I took Assyria cities. I actually planted one more city in here for an extra luxury. As you can see, I did never plant the southern city. So I did take Assyrian cities. And now it turned out that there's Morocco in here, and what's beautiful about it, he was building Petra, so he didn't really invest too much into the defense. And I was like thinking, okay, I already have the army, I'm already on the roll, though this is hard terrain to Marrakesh, I want to kill him. So I declared war like almost instantly, and I'm slowly trying to approach Marrakesh for another capital to gain. And I think this is a cool screenshot to show off what's cooking. So I was able to take Marrakesh. It's a very decent Petra capital, very decent Petra city. Not only that, I did take Rabat with an extra natural wonder. So as you can see, I do have a tiny little bit of problem with happiness, nothing that I can't sort out. And Mongolia is here. You can see the messages in here that QBS is asking, why did I need terracotta? So he built it up a little bit of troops because he was afraid that I'm gonna attack into him, but there was no reason to attack into him. I really didn't want to fight Mongolia, so actually we had sort of a cold war right now. We had a sort of cold war until very late game. So this is a 4-player game right now. And now I don't see Greece. Greece is somewhere in here, very isolated through mountain range. Austria is in here, also isolated through mountain range, and slowly buying up city-states and planting a lot of cities. He has very good demographics. Now, my immediate problem now is QBS. Now, QBS theoretically does not seem to want to attack into me versus Keshex, but I was trying to build up defense. And in the meantime, I was definitely focused on economy as much as possible. As I said, my intent was liberty into commerce, and I stick to that plan, and I was just trying to get those cities up to speed. So I'm gonna skip into turn 100 to show you how basically science works right now, theoretically, in modded game. Though obviously this is like the first modded game I'm posting, and I do not have that too much comparison right now between like full focus science game, but I just want to show off the situation at turn 100. Okay, this is roughly turn 100. Now, as you can see, I managed to get Great Wall, which was quite cool because I was still afraid of being cached by QBS. The science is 145 beakers per turn, which is not that bad. Yeah, it is not that bad comparable to other players in this game. It's really reasonable actually, especially I was the only guy at war. I want to say that because I think it's quite important to look and compare the situation of other players who was at war and who was not at war. Now I was in war. I actually killed 2 players already. The other players were not at war, so I was quite surprised that I am sort of keeping up at science quite nicely, though I was obviously behind. Now as you can see, Porto is building an NQMod. Now this is a cool change about the mod too. NQMod gives a free university in the city it's being built, so this is a particularly a cool one. It also has boosted culture right now, so it's a cool idea to actually build it, which is what I like. As you can see, I'm building up my cities. The capital is pretty small, but that's the way it has to be. I've got my free, I think this is a free scientist from Liberty Finisher, so I've got it planted to boost up my science. It's really good and needed to keep up at science when you're going Liberty. Now the difference between players, basically, if I remember correctly, I'm not sure about Cyclone Noob, I think he went Liberty, but Greece and QBS are on Tradition. Now the funny part is I went Liberty into Commerce, and also a good information about the mod is that all the great people are on different timers again. So if you get an engineer, it does not increase the cost of scientists and merchants. That's why I do like that change though, because it makes other great persons quite viable right now. So I was working, for example, market slots. I did open commerce. Now commerce boost to great merchant generation is 50%, which is just insane. And I will get a lot of those later on, as I will show you. But it's a cool addition that you can work. It's very viable to work all the slots right now. You don't have to worry that scientists are actually going to be slowed down. There's also one more important thing about the change in the mechanics of great scientists right now. This is what I'm talking. It's war focus, because science will slow down, like slow down totally, because great scientists now work like great musicians. So they do not increase the amount of science you get from bulbing a scientist does not increase during time. They are locked at the science you are generating at the moment they are born. So if you get a scientist in the early game, it's just you're gonna plant him, right? Because keeping them with like bulbs for 1k does not make too much sense. So actually you want to bulb the scientist you're gonna get in the very late game. You're max out with science, but the rest of the sciences can help you boost up speed. So basically the choice between actually bulbing or planting scientists is not really that hard of a choice, because if you've got a scientist that you can bulb for 1k, probably it's much more worth it to plant it for the late game, unless you're in trouble and you need to get faster to, let's say, artillery or stuff like that. So I like those changes in here. So this is turn 100. I'm still at peace with everybody. QBS did not intend to attack me. Austria and Greece were not fighting. Now the other trees choices, basically, now Greece is Greece, and he was going patronage, and patronage is just beyond craziness right now. It's beyond craziness, especially the one change. Well, there's 2 very huge changes in there that are just bloody crazy. Three though. Let's start off with the less OP. Now you got the science from city-state allies, which are tremendously good. They are locked in at science, so they are not dependent on the science the city-state is making. But at industrial era, if you've got a lot of city-state allies, you can like almost have 50% of the science you're generating comes from a city-state. Now it's really great, and I'm gonna post another game after this one, because in here I'm going Liberty Commerce and I'm going against Patronage. But in the next game I actually picked Patronage myself, so you can see it like in this game on the receiving end of playing against a guy with Patronage. And in the other game you can actually see how Patronage works for you, which is just like, it blows my mind right now. So there's one change, the extra science. The second change is, I don't know how the policy is called, but when you send a trade route to a city-state, you gain 2 influence per turn. You also gain 2 gold, 2 production, and 2 food. But 2 influence with civs like Greece, it's like It's okay. It's just so good. It's so good. And the last change is consulates. Now consulates give you 2 immediate delegates, and then 7 delegates or 6 until uh, information era, which in my opinion is the most overpowered stuff right now with consulates, because this allows you to win the diplomatic victory on the first vote. If you don't really need to have all the city-state allies, you don't really need to have Forbidden Palace, pass religion through the pass religion through the come on, how it's called, through the World Congress. You don't need to pass ideology through the World Congress. Before the mod, if you wanted to win the first vote at World Congress, you needed to build Forbidden Palace, you needed to pass the religion that you have, and you needed to pass the ideology that you have, or maybe skip ideology, I'm not entirely sure, but I think all those 3 things you needed to have, and you almost certainly had to get all the city-state allies, almost, or at least you could miss 1, and then you could have win the vote for diplomatic victory on the first voting. And in here you don't need a lot of stuff, because you've got 9 votes already. It's just, and this is Greece. So this is really, really strong in here. Now, QBS was tradition, and he was also trying to go commerce. I was liberty, going into commerce. We both opted for autocracy, and we're aiming for the late war. So there was not too much happening in here, so I'm just gonna show you 2 screenshots basically, more how the war looked like. It was sort of a trench war, but with planes. As I said, trench war, but with planes. This is the front line. This is the front line. As I said, we both are commerce, we both are autocracy. We both have immense amounts of gold income, though Kubias had much more because of the larger cities. So connection cities gain him more, and I think he traded much more with the city-states for a long time. There is no way to pass in here. There was no way to pass using planes, because like interceptions and bombers, it was like a cold war for a very long time. So probably if you're not interested in trying to maximize warfare, air warfare, without usage of tanks, artillery and stuff, I was basically going for mobile SAMs to try to push into that with mobile SAMs finally and make something happen. As you can see, I'm rocking a lot of gold, not too much science comparable to normal standard games without the mod. I've got a lot of custom houses, so yeah, I like the commerce change. 633G in the golden age is a pretty decent amount, especially that I'm autocracy commerce, so I can buy stuff quite quickly. But you're probably wondering how the game did end, so I'm gonna show you how this game ended. Turn 192. And you're probably wondering who won. Greece won. We conceded to Greece. There was physically no way to stop him from winning a diplomatic victory. Now you're probably wondering what could have been done. Well, first of all, I was locked in with war with QBS for so much time. As you can see, I just now took Hysia. He still have, look how much planes he has. He's got 26 planes. Now I've got like 40 or 50 planes or something around that, and still the air combat is just so ridiculously strange and hard to do that it's just beyond belief. Oops, excuse me. But I finally took Hysia. That cost me a lot of trouble. I do believe I'm gonna be first to nukes, and I could potentially nuke him. But the problem is Greece with the capital in here. There's physically no way I can stop him in 6 turns from achieving diplomatic victory. And Austria had need to leave also. Well, also he needed to leave like some time ago, So he didn't really want to influence the game, and we did want to play this out, look at that, but I highly doubt that Austria could do something against Greece as well. He was doing quite a lot of job actually buying off city-states, but I don't think that was actually helpful with the mod. I need to check that out, how that works out correctly, because I don't think that you actually, when you kill a city-state, that it works like previously, so you lose 2 votes, but the votes needed for the diplomatic victory drops by 1. I think it works something around differently in this mod, because I felt like I did kill a city-state. Yeah, I did kill a city-state, and I didn't felt like it dropped down the votes needed. It didn't slow Greece down. Now, so GG to Greece basically. Mr. Berju won this game by diplomatic victory, new patronage OP. But let's discuss what could have been done differently. Now, I don't like to blame, but me and QBS, I think, had a huge misunderstanding in this particular game. But then on the other hand, I don't blame QBS for that, though I might be a little bit salty at the end of this game. Salty, disappointed at best, but that's emotions running through you when you finish a game and you actually lose a game. We all know that, right? But looking at this game from a time perspective, I gotta admit that QBS, well, Greece was in a perfect isolated position without Austria, actually, because Austria needed to leave the game. Nobody would really have any incentive to stop him from winning. Now, QBS attacked me, and I kind of need to defend against that because I was thinking of city-states. Now, I was taking the city-states because I wanted to level my bombers. Now, this is another huge change in warfare in the mod, because if you want to have healing promotion, it comes as a 4th promotion. Okay, so you need land bombardment 3, and then you can have healing promotion. This slowed down the usage of bombers and planes also, because planes also have it after 3rd interception or 3rd sweep. Slow down their combat quite a bit, which is a great example in this particular game. But I was trying to take off city-states, level this up. I wanted to take all the city-states on my side of the map, but QBS decided not to allow me to do that. So when I take Vilnius, it was, well, he didn't do anything, but Ragusa, he decided to stop me. So I never had a chance to take Ragusa. And we warred from that time for a long time. Now, QBS was probably the only person who could have stopped Greece, but then on the other hand, if Greece would defend against QBS would be destroyed by me later on, because I had a lot of cities. I would take off the city-states. I could probably wait until nukes or backstab him at the greatest moment for me, and QBS would be dead either way. So I don't blame him that he did attack me and he didn't go to stop Greece, because why would he want to stop the Greece from winning if he would lose the game himself? There's no reason to do that. So, though I kind of don't agree with that in the game, and I was quite salty about it that he didn't go stop Greece, because he could. I can't understand that there was basically no reason for him to do it, because in this way or the other he would lose the game anyway. So why would he throw away his game to stop somebody when he would lose himself anyways by doing so? So I kind of get that and understand that. So this is why we had a huge war. Let's say I come victorious from this war. At least that's kind of cool. But in the end, Greece won the game. Now, the funny part, though, that I was very salty at QBS is that Ragusa was QBS ally. So, though I do understand that he did not try to stop Greece like with warfare, he could have at least used some gold. Well, I could have do that. I have 1 city-state allies, but QBS defended Ragusa, but at the end, he let Greece actually buy off the Ragusa city-state. So, actually the defense didn't work out well. I would be so much happier with QBS in this particular game if he would bought off Ragusa and declared war on Greece, so actually Greece wouldn't get those extra votes, and maybe something would be doable later in the game. Doubtful though, because you get more votes in the next Congress, right? And still the situation would be the same if Kubias will go for Greece. He would need to destroy all of his cities. That's the problem with diplomatic victory. Because with change to patronage, you don't really need to own Forbidden Palace. So it's not like Greece would be in 6 turns in here, or let's say 16 turns or 26 for the another vote. I think 16, right? It's not a matter of just killing or crippling Greece. You would need to destroy him completely, wipe him off of the map entirely to stop a diplomatic victory. And that was doubtful, very doubtful in any circumstance in this particular game. That's why we conceded to Greece. It was very, very well played. Though I feel like patronage is hugely unbalanced, and I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you in the next game after this one. When I go Liberty Patronage, and you're gonna see how much ridiculous the patronage tree is right now. It's ridiculous. In the right circumstances, when you're on the edge of the map, you don't have to worry about war. You're free to buy city-states, send traders to city-states. It's just ridiculously good. But in this game, we tested Liberty Commerce with the version 5 of the mod. It was still a cool game. Early game was very interesting. I wiped off 2 players, so early war was cool. I still managed to be competitive with tradition, commerce autocracy, by myself going Liberty, commerce autocracy. I was competitive with science to QBS, which was quite surprising. I was very pleased with that. We had a very, very cool war. New air warfare, I would say. There was no tanks, no land ships in this particular game, but they're gonna be in other games. Overall, a very, very cool game. Enjoyable, very enjoyable. For me at least, when I was playing it. Though the ending was a little bit salty. Yoruus. So, anyways, thank you very much for watching. GG to everybody. Thanks for the game. GG Berju. Very, very cool game. If you haven't watched the game, I definitely invite you to watch the game. The link to the first position of the playlist should be around here somewhere. And if you're interested in basically the next game, it's gonna be the other way around. I'm gonna have patronage, testing out patronage in the mod. So if you're interested to see how it works, I invite you to watch the next game. So best wishes. Yoruus out.